So from there, we're going to jump up to the next series of speaker, and that's going to be the KSC. And make sure I grab the right one. And this is, once again, this is where we're going to step up to a couple better features. So still, we have this really nice, stylish metal grill. But on this one, we've got a different shape on the tweeter, Ken. What kind of tweeter do we have here?
Dome.
That is a dome tweeter. Now, what I like to, give an example of the difference between a cone tweeter and a dome tweeter. You talk about, light. You got a flashlight. If you've ever looked at a flashlight, the way they've got that shape, it's almost like a cone.
Yeah.
Conical shape to the flashlight, and that focuses that flashlight beam. If I take that same bulb and I take it outside of that cone and I just hang it in the middle of the room or, out in air, I get softer light, but I get it more,
wider
everywhere.
dispersion, but it's not nearly as bright overall.
And that's kind of what you get with a soft dome tweeter. And you have hard dome tweeters, you have soft dome tweeters. I mean, there's so many. I think there's probably about 10 different types of tweeters. You have ribbon tweeters, you have horn tweeters. I mean, there's all piezo tweeters. I mean, it goes on. What's better? There really is no one answer. What's better when it comes down to personal choice? Everybody has their own idea of what they like for sound.
So yeah, back to what kind of sizes we offer in the KS, John?
KS, here again, we offer every size in the KS.
Actually, a little more than CS, actually. Got a couple of sizes we don't, and a couple of options like the 6x9.
Yeah, the 6x9s in the CS, they come with the 3/4 inch silk dome tweeter. They also come with a 1-inch silk dome mid-range. So, and these domes are actually built by DuPont.
Two-way, three-way?
Yep, that's a 3-way. I've always said I'd rather have a good 2-way than a bad 3-way.
Yeah.
But
a bad 6-way.
Yeah, and here again, back in the old days, growing up, in the mid 80s and 90s, you see these like 7-way 6x9s, and it basically.
You still see that. It has gone down, I would say, in the last 5 to 8 years, but it used to get.
Yeah, when you take it apart, and all the things that look like speakers were molded plastic.
Yeah, weren't actual speakers at all. Exactly. I don't know. Yeah.
It's all fake. Marketing. I remember there was.
How many tweeters do you cram on a mid-range?
And why would you want to put more? The more speakers you put in the center, like coaxially, it actually starts to interfere with the mid-range as well.
Sure.
So you start putting bigger speakers and more in front of it. Now you start blocking some of the output of the mid-range, and you start to deflect the mid-range signal off those speakers found in the center. So here again, I'd rather have a really good 2-way than a cheaply made or a bad 3-way. But
I'm with you on that. 25 to life doesn't agree with you. I'm with John on that one.
So it all depends on how they're done, and how good your tuning is,
That's right.
But what's better, a 2-speed or a 5-speed transmission? Well, in a car, generally the more gears, the more efficient. But with speakers, you run into phasing problems, you run into crossover problems. It gets more complicated. So
what are the upgrades of KS versus CS? Why would I bump up to KS versus CS?
First of all, what's really odd about these speakers, we talked about mounting depth and motor strength. This speaker is actually shallower than the CS.
How is that possible?
It's basically, it was designed a year later, but the R&D department got in there. They're actually able to, basically scrunch the basket a little bit more. But if you notice here again with that, there we are, you can see that tweeter does not protrude above this mounting surface whatsoever. So even though it is a better tweeter, it's a silk dome tweeter, and it's actually a taller tweeter, it still fits behind the panels with all the sizes.
Smoother, richer sound overall.
Yep. And the other thing we did is around the tweeter, or with the CSC speakers, we have the little dimples. This has got more of a wave guide, which basically it's kind of like a horn, kind of directs that sound out through the vehicle. And then the mid-range cone is polypropylene, but this uses a little bit heavier mid-range cone.
Right. Got a little more motor to work with.
Yep, so you got a stronger motor, but we also have a heavier mid-range cone, which means it's going to play a little bit lower frequencies, but it does mean it's not going to play maybe quite as loud, like a half dB less of sensitivity on the output. So, but this speaker is designed to work with a mid to larger size amplifier as well.
Right.
So it'll handle a bigger amplifier. It will play much louder overall than the CS speakers. It's going to sound a lot more natural and have a lot better lower frequency response. And on these speakers, rather than a UV-treated foam surround, we actually use a Santoprene, which is modified polypropylene. So we use a rubber surround on these speakers.
What's the advantage of using the rubber?
So it's going to last longer over time. The rubber is not going to fail. It's not going to cut. It's not going to wear through. And
anybody who's older than about 25, 30 years old has probably seen some speaker where it's a mid-range subwoofer with the foam surround that's just deteriorated to dust. So you don't have to worry about that when you're using Santoprene.
Yep, it's not going to fail. And then once again, you still have all the extra mounting holes in the speaker, so it fits on a lot of different mounting platforms. As I turn this speaker over, and I think Tim can probably get a good picture of it here.
Maybe brace yourself on there and you can zoom in a little tighter.
You see right over here, you see this little orange looking, that's actually the poly switch, that's the tweeter protection.
Yeah.
And then on all the KS speakers that use the 3/4 inch dome tweeter, which are going to be the 5 1/4 and up, they all have a 12 dB per octave crossover.
Nice.
So that allows us to play the tweeter lower in frequency because we're going to cut the bass off twice as fast as we do with the 6 dB per octave crossover. It gives them a more natural sound, more natural cutoff. So fantastic sounding speakers, and these are not that much more expensive.
No, they're not.